So if you actually stopped working tomorrow, what would your practice actually be worth? Would it sell really quickly? Would anyone actually want it? And here's the bigger question. Does it even matter if you don't sell? Most dentists I talk to fall into one of two camps. Some have a really big number in mind. They're banking on that sale to fund their retirement. Others shrug and tell me that their practice probably isn't sellable at all, too dependent on them, too small or too tied to their personal style. But here's the truth. The truth is whether your practice is worth $1 million, 100,000 or nothing on the open market, the question that really matters is, are you building freedom that depends on selling or freedom that makes selling optional? See, there are really only two paths to financial freedom for a dentist. The first one's exit dependent. You're betting on selling the practice one day for a lump sum that sets you free. Exit optional means you've built enough wealth outside the practice that selling is just a bonus, not a requirement. And the danger of being exit dependent is obvious once you say it out loud. You're placing your freedom in the hands of one event at one time in one future market. And if the buyers don't show up or if the price isn't what you'd hoped, the entire plan is at risk. The safer, more resilient model is exit optional. That's when you can wake up one day and say, I can sell, or I can keep running, or I can walk away. The choice is yours. And that choice, that optionality, is worth more than any headline sale price. So let's ground this in some real numbers, some data. In the US, median dental practice sales prices over the past few years have been averaging $245,000 to $430,000. Multiples are 1.5 to 2.4 times owners' discretionary earnings, or half to 3/4 of annual revenue. Now run the maths. If you've got a $1 million practice with 30% profit margin, that's $300,000 a year in profit. To replace that income with investments generating 5% returns, you'd need a $6 million portfolio. In other words, your practice is already producing the equivalent of a multi-million-dollar asset, whether you sell or not. The sale is just one way to monetize that value, but not the only way. And here in Australia, brokers report that while most owner-operated practices have strong margins, sales can take 12 to 24 months to complete. That's 2 years of waiting, often discounting to convert paper value into real liquidity. So here's the blunt truth. Most dentists are asset rich and liquidity poor. You've built something valuable, but it doesn't always translate into cash in your pocket when you need it most. So when it comes to practice saleability, there are a few clear signals. So the first one is green flags are systems that let the practice run without you, diversified patient base, strong recurring revenue, clean financials, all the usual stuff. Red flags include over-reliance on the owner, inconsistent profits, too narrow a specialization, or messy and unclear books. But even if you never sell, fixing those red flags almost always makes your practice easier to run and more profitable. The very things that make your practice more attractive to someone else make it enjoyable for you right now. And this brings me to what I call the marginal effort principle. Sometimes a small targeted change can meaningfully shift the multiple you'd achieve if you did sell, without adding years of extra work. And the irony is that those same changes almost always make your practice less stressful and more profitable today. Small hinges that swing big doors. So here's what counts as, let's call it marginal effort. Number 1, reduce owner dependency. Bring in an associate, train your team to make decisions without you, and recognizing that some of these decisions are an investment, they may reduce cash flow in the short term. But then suddenly your practice is seen as a business, not just a job tied to one person. Second thing is tighten financial hygiene. Things like restructure and clean up your P&L, separate business expenses from personal ones, build management reports. Buyers will pay a premium for more trustworthy numbers. And on the flip side, you make better decisions every month. Number 3, streamline your systems. Things like document workflows, use your practice software more effectively. Basically, think about how to make it easy for someone new to step in, whether that's a staff member or a future buyer. Number 4, boost recurring revenue. Things like expand recall systems, consider membership or loyalty programs. These tiny shifts can make a huge difference. But the big idea here is that predictable income is valuable not just for buyers, but for you as the owner. Now, none of these take years to implement. In fact, most can be done in weeks or months. But the impact is humongous. It is outsized. So let me show you how leverage plays out. Say your practice is doing $1 million in revenue with $300,000 profit. At a 1.8 multiple, let's say that's a $540,000 valuation. Now imagine you lift profits by just 10% to 330 and you tidy up your systems. That improvement might nudge your multiple to 2.2 and suddenly your practice is worth $726,000. That's a $186,000 jump for a relatively small targeted effort. And even if you never sell, that extra profit goes into your pocket. Now invest that at 8% over 10 years and you've added roughly $450,000 to your net worth. That's the marginal effort principle in action. Small changes, big optionality. So let me walk you through some examples. Dr. Jane, she had built her practice over 25 years and was banking on a big sale. But when she tried, buyers walked away because it was too dependent on her. The systems were in her head and there was a lot of staff turnover. She sold for a fraction of what she expected and her whole plan collapsed. Dr. Andrew built wealth outside of his practice, so he wasn't dependent on a sale. He found a buyer eventually. He could negotiate from a position of strength. He didn't need the deal, and ironically, that's what got him the better deal. Dr. Lee. Now, Dr. Lee wasn't planning to sell, but he made a few small changes. He brought in an associate, cleaned up his reporting, built recurring programs. Now, all of this grew his profit, reduced his stress, and his broker later told him the practice valuation had doubled. But he didn't sell because he didn't need to. But the optionality was priceless. So here's the takeaway. It's not about whether you sell. It's about whether you can. Freedom it doesn't come from a lump sum on one future day. It comes from optionality, from knowing that you can choose to stay or sell or walk away on your terms. And that optionality doesn't require massive overhaul. It often comes from small, deliberate changes, the kind that marginal effort pays you twice, once in freedom and once in value. So if this is actually hitting close to home, if you've been wondering about how to build external wealth or how to make your practice less dependent on you without burning more years, this is exactly what we work on inside Freedom Warrior Dentist. So if you'd like to explore what this could look like for you, head over to our website and book a time to have a chat. No pressure, just a conversation about where you're at and what optional freedom could look like in your world. Because at the end of the day, your exit should be optional, not essential.